Hello, my name is Riitta Valijärvi and I teach Finnish and linguistics at SEES.
And I am Eszter Tarsoly and I teach Hungarian and also linguistics at SEES. We are going to introduce two linguistics modules which run under the same main title, How Words Work, and are differentiated only by their subtitles, Sound and Sense and Meaning and Modularity. The former, Sound and Sense, runs in the first term and the latter in the second term. So you can take them one after the other in the same academic year. So Sound and Sense in the first term, Meaning and Modularity in the second term. Or you can do them in separate years in the order in which you wish. They are not prerequisites of each other, but we would strongly encourage anyone who takes one of them to take the other one at some point as well, because these two courses address two different aspects of the use of language and what constitutes linguistic knowledge, what enables us to speak or sign and understand linguistic signs.
So these two half units, How Words Work, are the same in terms of their scope. So they aim to help you develop an understanding of human linguistic behavior. And then they also provide you with the tools for its detailed scientific analysis. The focus is slightly different. So How Words Work, Sound and Sense, it approaches human linguistic behavior from sort of its perceivable end, its sounds, and unpacks the complexities of the patterns of how sounds can combine together. And Meaning and Modularity, the other half unit, as its title suggests, takes the process of meaning making as a starting point and then reveals or analyzes the cognitive and linguistic devices which enable humans to make sense of what they are hearing.
So on Sounds and Sense, the first term course, the focus is on the formal aspects of text, mostly artistic texts, to include repetition, parallelism, and other patterned deployment of sounds, prosodies, and also silences. The method with which we uncover these themes is close reading in a class of small numbers, so usually we have 10 to 15 students, and we are close reading short texts in their original languages. This kind of reading is achieved by morpheme glosses and detailed prosodic, metrical, linguistic analysis, and also cultural notes and suggestions for further reading, especially secondary reading that helps you undertake this kind of analysis. Before all this becomes possible, however, we look at the articulatory phonetics features of speech. So we look at how sounds are made, because this is what enables us to analyze these patterns. And while we are looking at phonetics, we will also discuss the evolutionary development of human language on the first couple of introductory courses.
The term 2, half unit Meaning and Modularity. Here the focus is on, for example, how ambiguity, so the fact that one thing can have many meanings, is used in texts and speech. Also, we'll look at metaphors and metonymy that are closely related, or sort of similar to a certain extent. We'll look at irony and other methods in texts, artistic texts like poems, for example. We'll look at semantic repetition, parallelism, paronymies, which is a wordplay, and sound symbolism. And the method is the same as in the previous course, the term 1 course, Sounds and Sense, because we look at short texts and analyze them together. And we do this morpheme by morpheme analysis, just like in the previous course, but we focus on slightly different things. And we look at semantics or meaning, and also we'll talk about culture, how we see it in the texts.
So because of this method of close reading and the range of languages we look at, we feel that students interested in language or literature or both will find these courses interesting and helpful. No prior training in linguistics is required, so all the technical tools that you need will be introduced to you during the courses. In class, we will examine texts from literature, song, popular song, newspaper headlines, advertisements. We then aim to a better understanding of how text and how language in general work. The texts are read in their original form. This means that we will be looking at text in a great many different languages, normally about 10 or so per term. And the exact list of languages always depends on students' interest in any given year. So if you come to this course and you study Russian or Polish or Japanese, we will try to accommodate that language on the course as much as our own knowledge of languages and linguistics allows us to do so. Reading the text in their original form means that students will also be coming to grips with intercultural and translational concepts such as equivalence. And this happens by becoming familiar with a range of ways of glossing, segmenting, and scanning. So these are all techniques that you can use to analyze texts in various ways.
So if you're doing a degree, let's say in German and Italian, so you will not only discover what linguistics methods or linguistics has to say about these languages, but also about other languages like French, Swedish, Russian, ancient Greek, Japanese, Hebrew, Welsh, or even English. So it depends on who's in the class and what's relevant and interesting that year. And there's also special emphasis on what linguistics can tell us about how and why different languages can be used to make art in different ways, because it's their structure that kind of doesn't determine, but there's certain tendencies in the way languages are used in art. There's no one single textbook or one specific kind of piece of preliminary reading, but we've provided links to various articles and books and copies of various articles and books on Moodle. And these are the core texts, and then they will help you sort of grasp these methods of analysis.
The assessment on both courses is one 3,000-word assessed essay, which is submitted a few weeks after the end of the last taught class. The formative assessment consists of a practice paper in linguistic analysis. For example, you can analyze a poetic text of your choice and analyze its sound patterning for sounds and sense. And if you wish, you can carry on using the same text for meaning and modularity and analyze its tropes, metaphor, and metonymy, or any other patterning, parallelism, and repetition that emerges from the meaning. So you can use the same text, but you can also write on totally different topics. So now, Rita, a few words about past essays.
So past essays on sounds and sense, they've included papers which discuss the sounds of different languages, how they pattern, and this is the patterning, and how they're sort of artistically manipulated in different ways for poetry and other artistic patterns. So they've looked at things like rhyme and alliteration, well, they're not boring, and how they're done in different ways in different languages, meter and rhythm, how they are and how they're not like music, because there are similarities and differences, rules and rule breaking, which is linked to creativity and fashion and perhaps even aesthetics. Whereas past essays on the other half-unit course, meaning and modularity, have included syntactic and morphological analysis of text. So syntax is how you combine, let's say, words, and morphology is different sort of shorter, smaller units in language, like endings and suffixes. And we've also looked at mapping of poetry and everyday tropes, metaphor and metonymy in various types of text or text collections. It could be a literary text or list of expressions, I don't know, idioms, for example, and how they belong to a specific language and how we understand them. We've analyzed that. Our students have analyzed that in their essays.
But you can also write comparative or critical papers. For example, you can compare grammars of a language of your choice, explaining where they differ. and critically evaluating the author's approach. This offers quite a wide range of possibilities because you can pick, for instance, the grammar of Polish or Russian for native speakers and compare it with a grammar for speakers of English of the same two languages or the same one language of your choice. Or you can compare two different grammars for native or non-native speakers. You can do this for both courses. You can look at only the way in which sounds are represented in grammars for sounds and sentence. And then you can look at how, for example, the case system of a language or how what grammars like calling word order is represented in these grammars. You can even touch on the various cognitive linguistic topics like metaphor and metonymy by looking at grammars or dictionaries. So you can, for example, take a bunch of words and look at the sound patterning of a particular set of words belonging to the same semantic area. For instance, can you tell if a word is a kinship term in a language just by looking at or hearing its phonetic shape? Is there a sort of a phonetic similarity across words denoting similar areas of the world or similar areas of the, or taken from similar areas of the lexicon? But you can also do the same with analyzing meaning. So you can look at, for example, how particular everyday metaphor underlie expressions for understanding or lack of understanding, for example.
So what is quite unique about this course is that you decide which language you want to write about. So it could be a language you study, or it could be a language that you speak at home, or it could be a language that you've heard about on the course, or it could be another language, a challenge, as something that you want to find out more about. And we will cover a variety of languages, including the ones that we have worked on. So this would include languages like Finnish, French, Hungarian, Polish, and Swedish, and also less studied or less well-known European and non-European languages, such as Romani, the language of European Roma or Gypsies, Sami, spoken in northern Sweden, Norway, Finland, and even Russia, Greenlandic, and they're very different. There are certain similarities. And then also Khanty and Mansi, which are spoken in Siberia and are highly endangered. But like we said, you can also choose your own text and analyze a language that hasn't been mentioned on the course.
The courses are provisionally scheduled to run at 11 o'clock on Fridays. That's where we have taught them for the past few years. So we look forward to seeing you there on the first Friday of the next teaching term, live or across Zoom, either way.
Welcome.
Thank you.